Hi everyone, in this video I want to show you a game between two Romanian grandmasters, Andrei Istratescu, Romanian current champion, and Marius Manolache. The game was played in round 5 in the Romanian International Open held in Alba Iulia between 20 and 27 November this year. Let's see the game. Andrei started with d4. With this move, white occupies the center and controls c5 and e5 squares. Also, this move allows white to develop the dark square bishop on the c1 h8 diagonal, and also the queen to move to d2 or d3. Knight f6. With this move, black controls the center, e4 and d5. c4 controls b5 and d5, and now the d1 a4 diagonal is open for the queen to move. g6. Black wants to develop his bishop to g7 and control the a1 h8 diagonal. Sorry, it's not working. Knight to c3 is a developing move that controls e4 squares, and white wants to play e4. Black has a choice now to play d5 and enter into the Grunfeld defense, but he played bishop to g7. It's a developing move, and it seems that he wants to play the King's Indian defense with d6 and e5 or c5. Black wants to put his king to safety first and then attack the center. e4. White has a big center formed by his cd and e pawns, and d6 from black, and this move is preventing white from playing e5. Knight to f3, another developing move. In the opening we need to develop our knights before the bishops. And short castle, black king is safe, and now white needs to develop his light square bishop and perform castle. So bishop to e2, and black played c5, is attacking d4 pawn. Another way for black was to play e5. Short castle, and white king is safe. Black played rook to e8, maybe wants to play e5 in the future. White played h3. White wants to develop his dark square bishop to e3, but this bishop can be chased away by the knight from f6. So with this h3, white is taking control over g4 square and prevents knight to g4. So knight to c6 from black. This move is putting pressure on d4 pawn and controls e5 square. And bishop to e3. Now the bishop is safe and is also defending the d4 pawn. C takes on d4. Black is releasing the pressure from the center and he's taking on d4. Knight takes on d4 and bishop to d7. This is a developing move. Black now needs to move his queen on c7 or b5 or a5, and his opening is finished. Queen to d2. White finished the opening by connecting the rooks, and he might play bishop to h6, exchanging the dark square bishops. Knight takes on d4 and bishop takes on d4. And bishop to c6. Black's improving the position of his light square bishop, and he's also attacking the central pawn e4 twice. So white is defending his pawn with queen to e3. Another way to defend this pawn was with bishop to f3 or f3. The drawback of this queen move is that the queen is no longer looking at the d5 square. Queen to b8. I was expecting the queen to go to c7, b6 or a5 in order to finish the opening. I've tried to understand the purpose of this move, but the only reason that I could see is to support the b7 pawn in an eventual b5. Of course, before pushing b5, black need to play a6 and then b5. What should white do next? White should try to attack, and if this is not possible, he should try to improve the position of his pieces. The position of the rooks can be improved by placing them on the C and D file, because these are semi-open files, and in the future those files might open. The knight from C3 might go to D5, forcing some weaknesses in black camp. If black would play E6, the D6 pawn would be weak. Also, the light square bishop can be improved to the G4 square, but for the moment the knight from F6 is controlling this square. So white played knight to D5. The drawback of this move is that the knight is no longer controlling the B5 square, so black is now threatening to play b5. But in the game, black took on d5, and white recaptured with the c pawn, and now the c file is opened, and white should take control of this file, placing the rooks here and doubling. Also, white has a space advantage due to his d5 pawn. Black played a6, and he is controlling the b5 square and prevents bishop to b5 attacking the e8 rook. So we have rook a to c1, white is putting a rook on the open file, and knight to d7. This uncovers the bishop from g7, and white is taking the bishop from g7, and black recaptures with the king. So what should white do here? Same thing. He should improve his piece quality. He can play bishop to g4, add the f rook into the game by doubling, for example, play rook to c3 and rook f to c1. So white played rook to c3 with the intention of doubling on the c file. Queen to d8. I guess that black wants to put his queen on b6, attacking white's queen, and also looking at the b2 pawn. If the queen would come to a5, he can attack the a2 pawn. Also, after the queen is moving from d8, the rooks are connected, and the opening phase is done for black. In the middle game, we need to attack the weaknesses of our opponent. If this is not possible, we need to improve the position of the pieces. White weaknesses are the pawn from a2 and b2. Rook fc1, white continues his plan and doubles on the c-file and threatens infiltration on the 7th rank. Rook to b8, it seems that black postponed his plan to move his queen to b6 and connect his rooks in order to finish the opening. Maybe black wants to play b5 and queen to b6, attacking white queen. Bishop to g4, white improves the position of his bishop, looking at the c8 h3 diagonal. If black moves the knight from d7, white can go to c8 with his rook attacking the queen. Knight to f6, and with this move black is attacking the bishop from g4. And rook to c7, we have infiltration on the 7th rank. Rook to f8. This vacates the e8 square for the queen that might come to b5 in the future. b4. This move controls a5 and c5 squares and grabs some space into black's territory. Maybe it was better to play bishop to c8, cutting the communication between the rook and the queen, and then the white queen can come to a7 attacking the rook from b8. Queen to e8. The queen wants to move to b5. What should white do next? Attack or improve the position of his pieces? An attacking move would be bishop to c8, as I said earlier, attacking the b7 pawn, and also queen to a7, followed by queen to a7. Queen to d4, white is centralizing his queen and it's spinning the knight to the king. King to g8, the king gets out of the pin, and bishop to c8. Finally, it's interfering between the rook and the queen. And next white can bring his queen to a7. a5. Black position is difficult. He tries to attack by playing a5. Maybe it was better to give his queen for the bishop and rook, but the endgame is losing. Queen to a7, the rook is attacked, so black takes the bishop from c8, rook to c8, attacking the queen, and the queen moves to b5. Queen takes on a5. White wants to trade queens because he's an exchange up and he has a pawn majority on the queen side. So black doesn't want this. He played queen to a2 and queen to a8. An attacking move that is threatening the f8 rook. And here black takes on e4, thinking that he can take on f2 with his queen and give a perpetual check to white's king. But white can take on f8, and after the king moves to g7 can give another check, and after the king moves to f6 or h6, white queen can come to a7, defending the f2 pawn. So in the game followed, rook takes on f8 check, king to g7, rook to g8 check, king to f6, and queen to a7. So in this position black resigned because he's a rook and an exchange down. I hope you learned something from this game. Please watch other games from my channel and don't forget to subscribe. See you soon. Bye.